Russell Westbrook. You love the Philadelphia Eagles. Let me get a hell yeah!
What is up, everybody? What's going on? It is Dives, Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. Welcome to Party on Broad. Party on Broad can be found on iTunes and Spotify. Make sure you smash that subscribe button. If you're watching us here at the TPL YouTube channel, joining me today is my man, Rob. You know him on Twitter at Philly_Madness. What's going on, Rob?
Hey, man, it's the second week in a row where the Eagles have lost, and I'm not, just ready to hate the entire team. There's things I'm ready to hate, but not the entire team. So I think I see a turnaround coming. Weird as that sounds at 1-4-1, I see a turnaround coming. I'm going to be positive today for, at least 5 minutes, I swear.
Yeah, let's start off. Well, what are we doing today, Rob? Today we are talking about our final takes versus the Baltimore Ravens, and then we're going to do a preview of the upcoming Thursday night game versus the New York Giants. We've got William Redding joining. Tighten up. What's going on, man? How you doing? Thanks for joining. All right, and let's start off with positives, Rob, because you got to talk about the top takeaway, and that was my man Carson Wentz and his heroics, absolute heroics on Sunday. This guy was under pressure all game long. Out the gate, the Eagles' offense was absolutely terrible. They didn't record a single first down until the second quarter. Jalen Hurts, I think it was a rush. But their first 6 drives resulted in 5 punts, a fumble, and a negative 12 yards. And when you look at the state of the offensive line, it was truly incredible to see Carson Wentz, my man, step up and perform like he did. The Eagles came into this one with 4 of the original projected starters on the offensive line, plus 2 replacement starters. We saw Jack Driscoll leave in the fourth quarter. Miles Sanders was out. Zach Ertz was out in the fourth quarter. Brett Toth came in, had to form a right side of an offensive line, probably the worst offensive line in the history of the NFL, between Jamon Brown and oh my gosh, it was just Winston Justice all over again. Jamon Brown, 3 sacks given up to Calais Campbell. And then it's just, you saw the drops. I'm going to leave the drops up to you, man. But if there are any positives from Sunday's game to the loss of the Baltimore Ravens, it begins and ends with Carson Wentz. And the Carson Wentz we know and love is officially back. Earlier in the season, man, this guy was clearly off. He was clearly a problem. The script has completely flipped. The Eagles had a chance to beat a very strong Ravens team, but Wentz was the biggest reason for that, man. What's the final take for you, dude?
The final take is this. If you want to continue to blame Carson Wentz for what's happening with the Philadelphia Eagles, you need to find a new team because you're not an Eagles fan. To be honest with you, I wouldn't even consider you a football fan because you have no idea what you're talking about. You're Max Kellerman, you're Joe Giglio, you're all these morons out there who just don't have a clue. Because what I saw on Sunday was one of the boldest performances by a quarterback that I've seen in this town maybe ever. And outside of the only thing that comes to mind for me, I know that there's probably stuff before me, but Donovan McNabb playing on a broken ankle and throwing 4 touchdowns was a very correct. But here was a guy who was hit 16 times, was sacked 5 times, was manhandled in every way. These were hard hits. And when the game was over, there was no chance of them coming back. Carson said, hop on, I'm going to lead you back. He's throwing darts off his back foot. He's running 45 yards, breaking tackles down the sideline. He's calling plays at the line. He did everything a franchise quarterback, a starting quarterback should do. And when you look at where that game ends up at 30-28, all right, and hindsight's 20/20, but you think Jake Elliott, who we got to start talking about with a missed field goal, Miles Sanders with a drop touchdown that ends up getting you no points because you don't get it on 4th down because some reason on 4th and 2 against the best defensive line of football with the worst offensive line of football, we decided to run a 2-yard QB sneak. Is that's intelligent. You don't get the last 2-point conversion because once again, with the worst offensive line in football, you decided this is the great time for a read option against one of the best defensive lines in football. Just totally mind-boggling ideas. And then for his ass to come out this week and say, well, we exhausted all of our plays. You did what? Excuse me?
Uh-huh.
That's Rich Kotite-esque. That is your 2-point chart getting washed away by the rain because you didn't laminate it. You ran out of plays. What does that even mean? Guess what then? Go back to the play that got J.J. Arcega-Whiteside open for the first time in his career that he caught a 2-point conversion. Because there wasn't a guy within 10 yards of him on that play. I guarantee he would have got it again. But we'll get negative in a minute. But but what Carson Wentz did was what a true leader does. I mean, Jamon Brown doesn't belong on a football field. Okay? Toth had no idea what he was doing when he got out there.
You can't blame them. Like when I was watching them play, like no part of me, 0 ounces of me was like, upset at the offensive line on Sunday. Like that's the best you can do right now. And that's like, it was kind of funny on some respect, but like, I don't blame the offensive line at all. That's just the shit they've been dealt.
Yeah. And I blame the front office for making that the shit they've been dealt. And I blame, and look, let's not miss and Dallas has this argument as well. Both Dallas and the Eagles have this gripe. The injuries that they have sustained this year are astronomical. And when you look at both of their offensive lines, they've been ravaged. They've just been ravaged, and you see the result of that. But for Carson Wentz against the 2 top defenses in the league to score 57 points in 2 weeks, if you would have told me that going into these games, I would have told you I guarantee the Eagles win one of them, if not both of them, if they were going to score that many points. Okay, and that brings you to the defensive side of the ball, which we'll talk about. And not even – I thought the defensive line actually did okay this week. They really couldn't get anything on the ground started. But, listen, I don't know how much more I could watch Nate Gary on a football field. He just has no business. And look, did Davion Taylor make mistakes? Sure. But guess what? He at least made some hustle plays, whereas I watched Nate Gary play like he was in a 2-hand touch league twice, where he takes a terrible angle and just slaps at the guys. He runs past them for a first down.
Yep.
But all in all, the positive here is the offense has scored now really a high amount of points against 2 really good defenses, and now they get 3 really not so good defenses in a row, and you hope that they exploit that they don't play down to this competition, that they continue whatever they did in the fourth quarter last week against Baltimore. And honestly, look, what is it? The Giants, Dallas Giants, is that their next 3?
I think so.
I think that might be their next 3. Here's the deal. You need to handle business in your division right now because your division's terrible. And if you win the next 3 games and you're 4-4-1, I guarantee you're in front in the East. I will guarantee you are in first place in the NFC East. There's no doubt in my mind. So as much as this season has sucked, and as much as we've all said, screw it, it's done, it ain't done. And I hate to have this false hope, but it ain't done.
Does the fear of being mediocre worry you at least a little bit? Because there's a part of me, I got to be honest, there's a part of me in the back of my brain that the Eagles finish with 6 or 7 wins, get a shit draft pick. Like we're talking, week 14, the Eagles go on a 2 or 3 game win streak, get the 6 wins, and then all of a sudden their top 10 draft pick goes into like late teens because they win the division, and then their first round exit. Is that like, where's that? Like, where are you with that right now?
Well, I fear mediocre, but not necessarily from a draft perspective. I fear that this team will have a long stretch of back being the mediocre Eagles, where they're right on the cusp, but not quite there, that sort of thing.
Yep.
Here's why I don't fear the draft thing. They don't draft well anyway. Like, until I hear that Howie Roseman is no longer in charge of a draft, I can't try and say, oh, well, we got to get up for a draft pick, because I don't expect them to make the right moves, right? Look, I know, and I have no issue with the kid, and the kid could be a really good player for them in Jalen Reagor. He can be. I don't disagree with anything you've said to me or anybody else has said to me. But all I know is I'm watching Justin Jefferson now the last 3 weeks just turn in not just a good performance, a dominating top of the league performance with Kirk friggin' Cousins as his quarterback. And all I'm saying is this: Rager could be really good, but is Rager? I guess the question's going to be with Rager, and he can prove me wrong by far. Is he going to be the one-trick pony? Is he going to be the speed guy? You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that he is or not, but all I know is then you look at DK Metcalf. Someone put out something on Twitter today. All the wide receivers the Eagles have passed on in the last 2 drafts. And I mean, the names that are on this list of guys that are performing at an unbelievable level.
Yeah.
And it just makes you go, all right, so what the hell's the difference? I mean, it's a crapshoot anyway. Like, okay, maybe they got lucky with John Hightower. I know he dropped the ball. I get it. But maybe he's a guy that works. Like, everyone's like, oh, Travis Fulgam. They didn't draft Travis Fulgam. They didn't draft him. Somebody else did. And they had him on the practice squad to begin the year. And the only reason he's playing is because guys got hurt. So I don't want to hear Greg Ward, same thing last year. Only reason he started playing was guys got hurt. He was better than what they had. So I fear mediocre from are we now in for a long stretch of mediocre? Not so much because I'm worried about the draft pick, because I have zero faith in this team as constructed in the front office to draft.
Yeah, that is it. Like that is the Eagles' biggest, hands down, top to bottom, the biggest issue for the Philadelphia Eagles is their inability to identify top end talent in the draft, and that's haunted them for a long time. I'm a big fan of Jalen Reagor. I think he's going to be terrific.
Yeah.
I definitely don't think he's a one-trick pony.
And I'm not trying to be one of these guys out there going, "Oh, you screwed up." Like, I'm not judging Jalen Reagor off a game and a half.
Too early. It's too early.
Way too early. I'm just saying, like, that there were so many people on Twitter talking about Justin Jefferson only being a one-trick pony. Ain't nothing I see him doing is one-trick pony right now. You know what I mean? So, and then DK Metcalf and so on and so forth. So,
all right. Another take for me from last Sunday in the loss versus the Baltimore Ravens has to be coaching is the number one issue on the Philadelphia Eagles. It's not injuries. Last week, we saw Jim Schwartz go from hero to zero. This week, it's all about Doug Peterson. These are 2 coaches that continue to fail to see what is happening on the field. It's the inconsistency on offense that plagues the Eagles week in and week out. And last week versus the Ravens, we saw it again. The game against the Ravens, they didn't get their first down until like 5 minutes into the second quarter. Like, shit in the first half, great in the second half. That is a microcosm of what we have seen from the Philadelphia Eagles these last 2 years. They have stretches of greatness and stretches of just pure puke, vomit, shit the bed, terrible football. Last week, we had Nate Gary on Chase Claypool get burnt versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. This week, we saw a botched 2-point conversion that would have tied the game in the fourth quarter. So, yes, the injuries have been brutal, but Doug Peterson, Jim Schwartz, man, these guys continue to make big mistakes in crucial moments. And lastly, I want to say about the Ravens game, and this kind of ties in and leads us into the game against the Giants. And I want to lead off saying in no way am I supporting this guy starting over Carson Wentz, but I think Doug Peterson's offense is so inept that I think the only solution moving forward, Zach Ertz is out for a long time. Miles Sanders is hurt. It's time to unleash Jalen Hurts. So far, Jalen Hurts has played 18 snaps for 180 yards, good for 10 yards per play, more than double the Eagles' 4.9 yards per play on the season. He's also averaging 7 yards per carry. We only see him play like 3 to 5 snaps a game. This is a guy who gave the Eagles their first down in the second quarter. For a team that lacks playmakers, for a team that lacks creativity on offense, for a team that can't put any pressure on a defense, Jalen Hurts has to play. Doug, it's time to man up, put this guy in, get creative. I don't even care if Carson's like out of rhythm or can't get in sync. The offense isn't in sync anyway. You look at the timing between Carson and the best playmakers on this team. I'm not including Travis Fulgham, but we'll talk about him in a little bit. But Doug has to really implement Jalen Hurts in this offense moving forward. That's the only way you're going to stretch the defense and put pressure on a defense and get big yards, because that's really, I think, the only solution is moving forward. And, of course, you'll probably see Doug Peterson run 2 tight end sets with what's his name, Richard Rogers and Jason Kroom, because that's what Doug does. Dougie P got a Dougie P.
Well, and I have a slightly different take on the Jalen Hurts thing, and I'm not saying you can't use him, but as people started getting real excited on Twitter in that one little series where he was out there, I had a totally different look.
Okay.
As I'm watching the game, I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed as an Eagles fan, right? Because all we've been sold on for 4 years under Doug Peterson is the offensive mind, okay? The offensive mind, the offensive genius should not need to have to run gimmick plays to get first downs. Like that was an absolute attempt of desperation because he had no friggin' clue what to do. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's an embarrassment that you went into an offseason and decided we don't need an offensive coordinator. We'll put together an offensive staff of all these good offensive minds. And you mean to tell me that you can't get a first down until the second quarter when you go to gimmicks? That in itself is an absolute disgrace. And I, for one, was embarrassed that we had to watch our team have to resort to that. I understand what you're saying. Yeah, it's a good change of pace. But damn it, if you have to become a gimmick offense where you have to bring in a second quarterback, it tells you everything that's wrong with this organization. It tells you that you made the wrong draft picks. It tells you that pick should have went somewhere else. Mm-hmm. I understand there's injuries, but Jesus, man, Jesus. And then the one time where maybe you should gimmick it up on that third 2-point conversion when you're going to go run a read op. First of all, there's no reason with that offensive line read option should have been the call. And then he says, I should have called a timeout. No, you should have never called that play. Carson Wentz was throwing dimes at that point. It should have been a pass with the pocket rolling out. Maybe even one of those, you roll everybody one way and have the tight end leak back out the other way and it's wide open. That's the type of play that should have been called.
Everyone but Doug sees that. That's what's so mind-boggling about this team. Everyone saw it coming that Carson is on fire. This guy is hot. Put the ball in his hands. The play call gets in late. The Boston Scott and Carson run into each other. These coaches in Philadelphia cannot get out of their own way. I don't get it.
It's not, and my point is, it's not creative to put Jalen Hurts in. It's gimmicky. It's creative to do things with your offense as it's presently constructed. Now, does Desean Jackson play this week? It seems like he may. Even if he does, how long does he play? But regardless, if Desean Jackson's out there and you have him on one side and you have Fulgam on the other and you got Greg Ward in the slot, you better try and push this defense to the limit on Thursday.
All right, we're gonna talk. Let's talk about that. Let's get to the comments and then we'll get into the Giants game. We got Brian joining. Eagles win 24-14. Eagles need to keep running the ball even without Sanders. We're going to talk on that one because the Eagles running game and where it's at is kind of interesting. We also got who do the Eagles focus on in the draft and free agency? Wentz needs more help, but linebackers suck. This whole team needs adjustments, but what is your primary concern? For me, it's got to be on the lines, offensive line, defensive line. That's where the game is won. I mean, you look at the tackles. Jordan Mailata, we talked about positive. That is another positive. You didn't hear his name at all on Sunday. That is a huge positive. What they do with Andre Dillard is a bit of a mystery, but that is a huge positive. But Jason Kelce guards, you need offensive talent. And then obviously cornerback, you got to target cornerback and obviously wide receiver. You got to get some playmakers. What about you, Rob?
Yeah, I think the lines are important. I think this Jordan Mailata thing could end up really working in their favor. It could almost get them to be able to move Dillard. I think about in the future, I think Brandon Brooks comes back. Where is he? I don't know. You got to hope that Lane Johnson eventually gets healthy, whether it's for the future or this year. I don't know what you have in Kelce. I don't know if Kelsey's around after this year. Look, I think I'm running all these new guys that are playing on the offensive line are running together. Who was playing? Was it Herbig that was playing well before he got hurt? That was playing well before he got. One of them was playing okay.
Yeah, Herbig's been playing very well.
Yeah,
I thought he's going to move to right guard.
Yeah.
Jack Driscoll has been playing okay.
Yeah, we got her. I mean, look, it's an interesting thing. But look, if I say look one more time, I'm going to hurt myself. But anyway, linebackers need to be addressed. But if you're not going to draft one in the first round, you need to go spend some money on one in free agency this year. And I mean legit money. $4 million to that position is absolutely disgraceful. Like, I understand you don't value it, but you can't do what you've done this year. This is abominate. This is as embarrassing as the years where, like Andy Reid would go out there and like say, "Oh, we don't need a punt returner. We'll just throw somebody back there," and then they fumble like 6 punts in a row. Or we don't need wide receivers. Let's just run out there with Nay Brown. That's fun. Like, or who was a kid from Georgia that was supposed to be a beast and he stunk, and I can't think of his name now from back in the day. Reggie
Brown.
Reggie Brown, downtown Reggie Brown. Downtown Reggie Brown was supposed to be the next guy. You can't do that at certain positions. And linebacker in today's game, you need at least one stud out there to play that position.
I just had flashbacks of Reno Mahe returning.
Oh my God.
Picks and
Yeah, I went to the game the year that they opened up in Green Bay. It was Brett Favre's last game as a last home opener as a Green Bay starter. They went out there with no punt returners. They fumbled 2 punts in that game. They lost by 3. With a minute and a half left, they were getting the ball back in a tie game to go win.
Yeah.
They fumbled the punt return, and Green Bay recovered it and kicked the game-winning field goal. Like,
going back to the linebacker thing, the only way that happens is if Jim Schwartz is fired. That arrogant SOB. There's no way
gotta go,
they're doing anything there until Jim.
He has to go. He wasn't good this week.
No,
he wasn't good this week.
We have James joining. You said, "Yo, what's going on, man? Thank you so much for joining." Fire Doug. The going for 2 calls are straight up crime. And fire Jimmy and Howie. At least move Howie to just running the analytics. Yeah. And is there any more backstory to who was the guy that made the report that Howie decides who dresses and who doesn't? Jeff McClain. Was there any more bones to that story? Because it kind of was out there, then it died. But that is, to me, that is a huge thing, and it just kind of went nowhere. I feel like the Eagles were like, no. Stop.
It's just you think of the Sixers, right? This collaboration style crap doesn't work. It's just you can't do it this way. You worry about the money. We'll tell you who we need on this team. You worry about making the money work. We'll play the guys. But I do think Doug at some point needs to grow some balls and say, "Hey, Jim, stop playing 47. He couldn't cover my mother." Seriously. He's got no business on the field. He's got no business on the field anymore.
Let's play Jalen Mills 10 yards off the receiver and a third and short. It's maddening. It's these guys, Jim Schwartz and Doug Peterson, they are maddening. James says, "Bro, this team is 2026ers in disguise." You look at the Sixers struggles home and away, their inconsistency. You look at the Eagles' inconsistency between the first and second half. Man, is this guy not right? Absolutely.
It's frightening. It is frightening when you look at the three teams that are not the Flyers. How similar all their situations have been in 2020. Which is why I said I wish COVID would have wiped out sports for the year, so I'd be a lot more sane right now.
All right, let's talk about the key storylines and matchups versus the New York Giants. These guys clash when the Giants take on the Eagles on Thursday Night Football. The Giants are 1-5, coming off a 20-19 victory over the Washington Football Team, while the Eagles obviously fell short 30-28 versus Baltimore. My first storyline, we already talked on it a little bit, of course, is the Eagles' offensive line versus the Giants' defensive line. That's got to be the top matchup. On the positive end, we talked on it. Jordan Mailata played really well, I thought, at left tackle. On the negative side, the right side of the offensive line was an absolute joke. You're definitely going to see Sue Opeta, on that right side, starting at left guard with Nate Herbig moving over to right guard, and probably Matt Pryor starting at right tackle. God, please, Carson, stay healthy. The bad news is the Giants rank 12th in overall sack percentage and 13th in sacks per game. Kyle Fackrell and Leonard Williams lead the team with 3 sacks apiece. The good news is the Giants are 24th in turnover margin and have a 1.7 giveaways per game. So they're prone to turnovers, but the Giants' defense is best against the run, giving up 106.5 yards per game, which is 8th best. Dalvin Tomlinson, you're going to be hearing that name a lot come Thursday night. That guy is a beast up the middle of that Giants defense. The Eagles just went up. You said, Rob, the Eagles just went up against two of the best defensive, two of the best blitzing teams in the league, in the Steelers and the Ravens. In terms of blitz percentage, Carson Wentz is probably the happiest person in the room right now, going up on Thursday night versus the Giants. The Giants only blitz 20% of the time, which is less than the league average of 24%. So you're going from two of the top blitzing teams in the NFL to a team that is below average. So the offensive line needs to play better. Carson Wentz is the most sack quarterback in the NFL. He's gone down 25 times in the first 6 weeks. But hey, at least they're going up against a weaker front seven. Hopefully Carson gets a breather this game. Hopefully he's more efficient, playing less hero ball. What about you, man?
Yeah, as far as that, I expect the Giants to blitz more than what they usually do if they're watching film.
Yeah.
I just think that they're going to do it. I think that Doug has to roll the pocket. He's got to move the pocket. He's got to get Carson out. He's got to let Carson take off the way he has been a little bit more. But Carson needs to trust himself, trust his feet, trust his arm. I think when Carson's just playing, you get the best Carson. For me, I'll flip it to the other side. I think the Eagles' defensive line has started to show some signs of life of late. I think Fletcher Cox, you've seen a little bit more of him recently. Brandon Graham has 4.5 sacks on the year and just seems to be in the backfield quite a lot. I've been very impressed with Josh Sweat. I know we had a lot of questions about Josh Sweat. I've been very impressed with him. Yep. I know Malik Jackson is out, but Javon Hargraves, time to play up to that contract, brother. You got to come in there and play. And look, Daniel Jones, they are one-dimensional right now. I know they have Devontae Freeman, but I'm not concerned about the Eagles' run defense. Like, their run defense is what it is. Outside of, whatever that game, the Rams game this year, they've been very good against the run.
Yeah.
But you got to make Daniel Jones uncomfortable. If you can make Daniel Jones uncomfortable, there will not be any problems in this game.
Right.
So, Jim Schwartz, you got to be creative, my man. Yeah. You got to send some more blitz. You've seen a couple of these blitzes lately. You got to see some more this week. I think you really have to try and throw him off his game. Joe Judge said in a press conference today, they don't do a lot. They just do some things really, really well. In my opinion, you need to do a lot of things that you don't really do to throw these guys off on the. So I think the Eagles are going to score. I hope it's a little bit earlier than the fourth quarter of this game. But to me, if you can defend, okay, and that means, first of all, I'm already sick of Jalen Mills this year. I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of it. And it's not even his play. It's his demeanor. Like, he doesn't do anything and then he dances. Like, just stop. Yeah. I'm gonna rip that finger off, dude. Seriously, I'm gonna rip it off. But to me, the defense has got to have itself a game, because 2 weeks in a row, they've basically been ripped up, especially third and long defense has not been good. The first couple drives of that game, there were like 3 or 4 third and 7 pluses that they gave up. And then I look at whenever the Eagles do get a break and they do score, the defense has to come out and get a stop.
Never happened.
It seems like they never do. Like, after that fumble that Arcega-Whiteside picks up and like the momentum like shifted, you're like, all right, great. Well, then there goes Lamar Jackson with no spy up the middle for 55 yards. That can't happen. You got to cut the snake off at its head. That's it.
James says, if we lose to the Giants, just put in Hurts at quarterback and start tanking the rest of the season. That is 100% never going to happen.
I don't want a quarterback at all, and the main reason is because this fan base is too stupid to understand.
That's never going to happen. All right. My other storyline is the return of Desean Jackson and Jalen Reagor. Love you, Jalen. Super excited for your return, but I am not going to give a second of my time to a bum like Desean Jackson. I'm never going to give this guy the time of day until he shows up on Sundays. This one is all about Travis Fulgam. Travis Fulgam in 3 games as a Philadelphia Eagle, 26 targets, 18 receptions, 284 yards, and 3 touchdowns. The first Eagle with 3 touchdowns in his first 3 games since Terrell Owens. Welcome to 2020, Rob, where we're now like celebrating Eagles football, and we're literally yelling at the TV screen for Carson Wentz to target a guy named Travis Fulgam. But this is a guy who has earned every bit of his playing time. And what kind of worries me, like Dougie P, got to be Dougie P, is that this isn't rocket science. This isn't rocket science. It's beyond obvious the chemistry Carson has with Travis Fulgam, with Jalen Reagor coming back, with Desean Jackson coming back. If we're going to have serious problems if Travis Fulgam is not a major part of the game plan versus the New York Giants. And I'm just absolutely stunned at how good this guy has been. I love the way this guy just goes up and gets the ball. I love the level of physicality this guy plays with. And the Eagles clearly have found a stud here. So I better not see T-Jax out there getting the bulk of the targets on Thursday night. That is going to be a major, major issue. So the return of the playmakers on offense is super intriguing. Also for the fact that you touched on it, Rob, the Eagles averaged 29.5 points per game against the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers, 2 of the best defenses. So pedal to the metal with Travis Fulgam. Even though Desean Jackson's coming back, like, please, please, please keep him on like a snap count and just kind of watch his snaps, because that chemistry between Carson Wentz and Travis Fulgam is absolutely real. And that's when the offense actually clicks. Any takes on that?
Yeah. First, is Reagor definitely back this week? Is that?
I'm hearing he is. So that's.
I mean, that's nice. That's really nice if you can get him back too, because now you got the speed guys, and it takes a little bit away, because you could tell, like, Marlon Humphreys was on Fulgam a lot the other day, so you could tell that the scouting report's getting out there. One of my favorite Fulgam moments was the catch over Humphreys in the end zone.
Was that great?
Out jumping one of the better defenders out there and coming down with that ball. And the other thing I love about Travis Fulgam, he's interviewed after the game.
Yeah.
And he takes the blame of dropping a Hail Mary pass.
That was awesome. Yeah.
I mean, like, the kid is just, he's a throwback. He just gets it. And I really, really like him. As far as Desean Jackson's concerned, if you want to make it so this has not been a total debauchery, and you want to make it better for your second stint in Philly, you better come out there the next 10 games and ball out. All right, Adam Kaplan said this week, if Desean Jackson doesn't play this week, he's a coward, basically. He's fine. That he's fine. And that there's no reason that he's not playing. So he better get out here and bowl his ass out for the next 10 weeks of the season. Listen, James Bradbury for the Giants has played pretty well from the corner position. Outside of that, not so much. So my thing with Fulgam is, you're right, Doug Peterson could be an idiot, but if Fulgam's on the field, the good news is Doug isn't throwing the ball. And I haven't seen Carson have this much trust in a receiver maybe in his entire career. I mean, he just seems to try and get the ball to Fulgam and just say, hey, whatever happens, happens. I trust this kid. He just throws a ball out to him. So because of that, I don't expect him to lose targets as long as he's on the field. But if you start putting, like, I don't know, Arcega-Whiteside out on the field instead of him and stupid crap like that, I am going to come on here next week and call for Doug's head like I've never called for Doug's head before.
I'm so glad you brought up the Fulgam, post-game press conference when he was saying I should have caught that Hail Mary. That's how you win the fans in Philadelphia. Miles Sanders and Jalen Reagor. Not that immature bullshit by liking tweets and posting stupid shit on social media. That's how it's done. Travis Fulgam clearly understands the pulse of the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's go on to bro. Wentz is getting killed out there. He absolutely is. 100%. There's no arguing that. He's been sacked 25 times already.
Yeah. My whole point on that was just, I agree he's getting killed, but if you put Jalen Hurts out there, I can't spend 10 weeks listening to the idiots who just don't want Carson to succeed. I can't spend 10 weeks doing that.
I agree that Carson Wentz is getting killed, but contract-wise, he's going to be here for at least a couple years. If Fulgam, Miles, Goddard, and Rigger are all healthy, we have something on offense. You're right, but Miles is out. Is Goddard coming back this week?
Now, I've heard that Goddard might still be out a couple more weeks.
Okay.
So I don't know if you'll see him this week on the short week.
Yeah, that's another thing is my other take from the Ravens game was, remember that shitstorm on Twitter when someone suggested that Zach Ertz should maybe be traded? Like, could you imagine Zach Ertz's trade stock and just his presence in Philadelphia has dropped like a rock.
It's unbelievable. Like, I love Zach Ertz, but at the same time, and I know he's hurt now, but I'm done. I'm out. I'm ready for a new reign. He's not doing anything.
Part of that is Doug's fault too, because they have failed to build around Dallas and Zach. But the split, the 2 tight end set does not work. It has never worked the last 2 years, and it's time. Zach is kind of part of that. If you could trade him and get something in return, and maybe that means the evolution of the Eagles' offense and a new scheme and more of a modern NFL offense, I'm all for it. Yeah. He says James says Desean got to retire. His time is up.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Dude, amen. You cannot count on that guy anymore. No. Period.
No.
All right. Yeah. Another storyline. Unleash Boston Scott. Like this has to be one of the,
baby.
This has to be one of the biggest storylines because we know when Dougie P abandons the run, bad things happen to the Philadelphia Eagles. The Giants have a very good defensive line. Miles Sanders is out on Thursday. So that kind of spells a little bit of trouble for Carson Wentz and the Eagles on Thursday night. But when you think of Boston Scott, you have to think of the New York freaking Giants. This guy tore apart the New York Giants last season. He had 113 rushing yards, 154 receiving yards with 4 touchdowns during his 2 games against the New York Giants last year. Scott is looking for his 3rd consecutive game against the Giants with at least 125 yards from scrimmage and a rushing touchdown. But obviously, like this season has not worked out for Boston Scott. This guy was, like Greg Ward, like the hero of 2019 for me personally. He's averaging 3.2 yards per carry. He's got 21 carries for 67 yards, just 48 yards receiving. The Giants' run defense is obviously much different this year than last year. But tons of eyes will be on Boston Scott. I am shocked they haven't been able to get him involved in the screen game this year. It seems like every time the Eagles try and run a screen, the defense knows it's coming, and it's just blown up from the beginning. Any expectations on Boston Scott, man?
I mean, I hope so. I mean, this is the main reason, though, I was screaming to get another backup running back in here in the offseason, or screaming for Devontae Freeman, who's now on the Giants, who's played decently enough for them to be a spellback, because I just didn't know how Boston Scott would hold up over a full 16-game season. Corey Clement, once again, great story in 2017. He just doesn't have it anymore. But listen, if there was ever a game for Miles Sanders to miss and Boston Scott to be the guy, it's this one because of what his track record is against the Giants. Now, the Giants know that. And I know it's a different coaching staff, but some of those players are going to remember that. So they may key on a Boston Scott, but maybe that helps the rest of the offense. I'm excited to see – not excited, that's the wrong word, but does Hakeem Butler get an opportunity this week?
Yeah, maybe.
Now, Hakeem Butler was a wide receiver in college. He's a big boy. But now he's playing the tight end position. Do you see him get a few plays out there from the offensive side of the ball? But to me, you don't have to be gimmicky in this game, but you have to be creative. You have to get the ball to the guys in creative ways. And that doesn't mean read options all the time. Everyone sees that now. We know that that's what you like to run. But go under center. Let a few balls fly deep like you did last week. Even if you don't complete them, get them up there. Throw the ball up there.
Yep.
To me, what I'm looking for is 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, the Eagles were struggling. They had a Thursday night game where they had to go up to the Meadowlands. People thought that they were in trouble, and they just gave it to the Giants. I mean, I think it was like 31-6, like it was a rout. That's what I want to see. That's the type of game I want to see from this team. I want good offensive and defensive football. Now, granted, when you're 1-4-1, if they win by a point or 50 points, it doesn't matter. A win's a win when you're 1-4-1. But I really am hoping to see the offense take another step, and the defense find a way to get back to not giving up 30 points a game. That's what I'm looking to see this week.
All right, let's do game prediction. How do you see this game unfolding on Thursday night?
Listen, they have no reason for me to believe this, but I see a route. I think the Eagles are going to come out on a short week. They can see the division. They have to understand that the division is there for the taking, but you have to take care of business in the division. You can't lose these games. If you lose Thursday, it's done. I don't care what you do the rest of the season. It's over. You don't lose to the Giants, be 0-2 in the division, be at 1-5-1, and think you're doing anything this year. But if you come out and you make a statement against the Giants, which you should, because even with their record, I think the Eagles are a better football team from top to bottom than the New York Giants, then hey, all bets are off. But I'm going to go – I think the Eagles are going to hit the 30 mark this week. I think they're going to go 31-14 will be the final. 31-14 Eagles.
All right. Yeah, I'm kind of leaning the same way, but I think it's going to be more of a shootout. I do think the Eagles are going to go out on top here. I like the Eagles in this one because Carson Wentz is freaking back. The last 2 weeks have been terrific. Typical Carson Wentz where his stats aren't great, but that absolutely does not tell the tale of how excellent he has been on the field. I think Jordan Mailata is going to be one of the main kind of heroes of this game. Little worried about Matt Pryor on the right side, absolutely. But, I mean, obviously this guy's clearly not a tackle. But I'm going Eagles 37, Giants 33. I don't think this is a comfortable win. But I think the Eagles offense, just like we've seen the last 2 weeks, is kind of getting in a rhythm for the very first time. And I think Carson Wentz is going to have arguably his best game of the year. I think this is the kind of that statement game, like you said, Rob. Anything you want to plug?
Well, I don't know what's going on with the madness, seeing as though the Eagles play right around the time we would host. I don't know if Jess and I are tame enough to try and do an in-game live. So you may get a week off of the madness this week, but I mean, I'm going to be with you tomorrow night, Chris. We're gonna switch gears a little bit.
Yep.
Go to the hardwood, but I'll be with you, you and Austin, and who else is with us tomorrow night?
Mr. Tiago.
Mr. Tiago talking a little Sixers tomorrow. So 9 o'clock, tune in. Make sure you catch us on that.
Yeah, 9 o'clock tomorrow. We're going to do a Sixers offseason preview, talk about who stays, who goes, trade targets, free agency, goals for the NBA draft, the best NBA draft targets for the Sixers. That's going to be a lot of fun. We have a lot of NBA draft content over here at the YouTube channel, at the Painted Lines. I've been doing a ton of NBA draft scouting videos. They're so much fun. That's me, man. I love waking up early before work and just like getting clips of different players and throwing them all together. So much fun. I lost in the horror draft. I'm really pissed off about that. I went down
in the finals, dude.
What's that?
You had a tough matchup in the final. I'm not even a horror fan, but like looking at the other list, I was like, oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah, I went against a guy who had a stacked squad, and I lost 52 to 48% in like 160 views. That sucks. But dude, I want to play a game with you. The finals of the horror movie draft is going on right now, and there's 10 movies. I'm going to say the over-under is 25%. Over-under of movies you have seen, these horror movies.
All right, let's do it.
I'll say under. All right, here we go. Have you seen Scream?
Yes.
All right, 1 for 1. How about Cabin in the Woods?
No.
1 for 2. Dawn of the Dead from 2004.
No.
Zombieland.
Nope.
Train to Busan.
Hell no. Don't even know what it is.
The original Halloween.
I don't think I've seen that, no.
Silence of the Lambs.
Yes, love Silence of the Lambs.
All right, we're at 2. Poltergeist.
I feel like I have seen that, like bits and pieces, but because of that, I've seen it all the way through.
Black Swan.
Yes.
All right. And how about Sinister?
Hell no.
All right, I mean that's 40%. That's all right. That was definitely the over.
Yeah, and Poltergeist is probably maybe, but yeah, no. Most of them. I know that. I remember the Dawn of the Dead preview. Here's what I remember from that 2004 movie: the preview of the little girl, right? The parent sleeping in the bed, knocks on the door, and just rushes in the room. And I was like, nope, not going to do that one. That one's off the list. I won't be saying that. But
that trend of like scary fucking children will never go away. That trend in horror movies.
I hate it.
I hate it works.
The possessed child is the worst possible thing for me.
Absolutely. And coming up in a couple of weeks, we have an action movie draft.
I'm back.
So 20 teams, like the horror movie draft, 20 teams. We're going to have 2 live streaming drafts, Saturday night and Sunday night, November 7th, November 8th. And you're in my group, bro. I'll be hosting the Saturday night draft. I have not done the lottery yet, but the groupings are set. So what that means is I put the top action movies in one group for us, and then I put the top. So there's like some balance so that teams on Sunday night can get a little bit of the top action movies for their draft.
Okay.
But if those movies aren't listed, you can go off board and pick whatever you want. All right. And I tried to keep it limited to 2 per franchise. So that way there's like a lot left. We're doing a Matrix versus John Wick show Friday night. And I gotta say,
do you know I have not, and I want to, and that's a goal of mine. I've never seen a John Wick movie.
Oh man, they're terrific.
I gotta watch it. I might put one on tonight, to be honest with you. I gotta watch it.
Speaking of action movie draft, like there's 3 of them. They're probably gone within the first 2 rounds. Like they're gone.
I hear they're like that awesome old school, just great action movie. I'm like, I gotta watch these damn movies. I mean,
The Matrix and John Wick, like by far, have 2 of the best elite fight choreography scenes that are just mind blowing. Mm-hmm. And the kill count in John Wick is absolutely hilarious. It's like he kills probably like 100 people in each movie. And it's just insane. And it's like 1 shot to the head. Or no, I think he does it twice. I think he does 2 shots to the head. It's just insane. You have to watch John Wick. We watched today's my birthday, and we had off today. And we watched The Matrix today. And I haven't seen it in a long time.
No.
First time in a long, that movie just blows my mind. The 2 best words in film are world building. And that movie just has it. And it's just...
I was going to say, I think this draft is going to get into my nostalgia, and I'm going to end up rolling back and like watching so many old action movies after that.
Yeah, I'm definitely losing this draft. This is by far. I've succeeded. I've been very successful in these drafts. I won back-to-back in this one, and then I lost in the final 4 of this one that's going on right now. Right. But that's because I pick lovable movies. That's the trick. You have to pick movies that people love, not necessarily your favorites, but movies that you think people are going to vote for.
Yes.
And I've done that, but action is a different breed for me. I have some personal movies like Twister. I love Twister. I'm definitely going to, if that movie's not on my like roster, I'm going to be very upset.
I have a couple that I know I love that never, I guess, were big enough maybe to make it to Twitter stream. Like there's one movie in my head that I want to put it on my roster. Like I don't care if anybody, because to me it was one of my favorite action movies ever. Like I just remember loving this movie. I'm not saying it. I'm going to hold this one for me. I'm going to hold it.
It's awesome. What else is new? Mandalorian's coming out in a couple weeks. I'll be doing episode reviews, written and podcast reviews of that show every week. I cannot wait. So obviously I'm a huge Star Wars nerd. But I think that wraps it up. Yep, we got Sixers off-season pod Wednesday night. We've got Maybe Madness on Thursday night. We've got the Matrix versus John Wick film breakdown. We're going to break down on story, visuals, rewatchability, visuals, like just an overall film grade. And we rank each movie out of 10 and see which one's the best of the best. It's really fun. It's fun to see which ones come out on top. And I think that's it. Make sure you subscribe to the Painted Lines YouTube channel. Follow my man Rob on Twitter at Philly_Madness. Check out the Madness podcast with Jessica Town, myself, Mr. Crockpot, for Rob, for myself. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.